Hey everybody, it's Austin Ward for Lettermen Row, back with BuckIQ. Still going through this Ohio State signing class, Reid, which they joined by Reid Fragel, of course, over here, in case you don't recognize the big man, the
been a while.
Former tackle, have him back in here. And we've been talking about the signing class and Ohio State needing to add some depth to the offensive line. They did that with another guy, Dawand Jones from Indianapolis, Reid, and huge, just like,
yeah.
I mean, a 6'8" guy, 300-plus pounds, way over 300. He's coming in. How difficult is that transition going to be? How long will it take before maybe we could see Dawand Jones in the mix there?
Well, I think he's obviously got the size, right? He looks like Orlando Pace out there, for God's sake. But I think he's extremely raw. Obviously, he's young enough to where that can be a good thing. I mean, that's expected at that age where, you know, a guy especially of that size, that's not a typical size for a guy in high school. So I think they got a lot of work to do with him. I think he's definitely he has the intelligence to learn and come here and grow into the player that he can become. But you'll see on tape here, I mean, he absolutely crushes people when he makes contact. It's just a matter of getting the fundamentals down.
You know, I can't relate to what it's like to shoot up to that height. You're a little bit more knowledgeable about that. I mean, how difficult is it to get your body right when, I don't know, some people say it's the coordination or the project.
Yeah.
You know, those labels get attached to guys who shoot up the way they do.
Yeah, everybody handles that whole phase of life differently. I know guys that had growing pains in their knees in middle school and stuff from going too fast, too quick. I never had to go through that. It was pretty gradual for me, but that's the issue. You run into these guys that are able to put on height, but the weight, when they put on the weight, it kind of becomes an awkward moving object, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it takes some time for them to get used to it, but I think at that age, like I said, 6'8", 350, I think was the size. That's not a typical size you see in high school, so I think he'll grow into himself in college.
Probably why all those big-name schools were getting involved with Dawand Jones late in the process. Ohio State stole him away there from USC, Penn State, amongst some others. Reid's going to break it down, see why he became this touted recruit for Ohio State now that he is signed. So let's roll the tape. All right, Reid, the normal caveats that we've had for all of these apply. Like, we don't know the level of competition, but we can also see that if he was lining up against almost anybody in the country at his size, he's going to look like a monster out there.
Yeah, like I said, 6'8", 350 at this age is not a very common thing. He looks like, you know, the guy from the longest yard out there just teeing off. When he makes contact with guys, I mean, he's very raw because he's, like I said, that size, you're not going to be the most comfortable at that age, so he'll grow into it. But when he does make contact with these guys, he absolutely demolishes them, which is something that has a lot of potential to it.
When you say that he's raw, like, what do you mean? Like, what's the first thing that stands out to you?
Well, you'll see in some of these, like right there, is a great job at the second level keeping his body position upright. He's not leaning. But you'll see in other positions he'll get towards the end of this play. You'll see that earlier where he's not sure when to throw himself completely. You'll see in his punch timing, like, look at that. Makes contact on the hip. That's a basic just pancake. But you'll see his punch and his pass technique is off, and that's something at that level 90% of kids are going to have a problem with. When you get the proper coaching, that's when he'll develop into it, and you'll really see him become a developed player. But, you know, out in open space there, you see a little bit of it. He's not too comfortable throwing a shot yet out in open space, but he doesn't really need to get a whole lot on the guy to knock him off because of his size. So that's just something over time he'll get comfortable with gradually with the right coaching. There you'll see a good reaction.
It's interesting to hear you talking about that punch again, because I remember when we first were talking about Isaiah Prince and his improvement, that was even 2 or 3 years into his career where you were saying he still hadn't figured out when to throw it, when, you know, how to use it.
It's a big thing for guys, and I struggled with it my senior year, learning from tight end to tackle, just trying to get that down. It's a totally a psychological thing, but also a timing thing. So it's can be hit or miss depending on the coaching you're getting. At the high school level, obviously, it's more often than not they're not coaching it the proper way.
Dawand Jones, I was noticing right there on this play the way he crossed over and he's pulling. I mean, the footwork for a guy his size. He also plays basketball. He's got some of that going. That's, I mean, to me, that's impressive. It might not be perfect as you're looking at it technically, but he's still moving a little bit.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to down talk the guy too much. I mean, he's got plenty to grow into, but he's just a very unique signing because there's no guys coming in his size.
Yeah.
So it's tough to kind of to grade him right now because I know what he can grow into. I was telling you right before this that a lot of guys come into college, put on 40 pounds, and they have to develop into their body and become comfortable with it over the 4 years. He's going the opposite way. He'll probably cut down about 20, 25 pounds, maybe more, and probably become more comfortable with his body quicker than a guy would who's gaining weight. He'll be basically taking plates off and taking weights out of the weight vest, so to speak, and going out there and running. So I think you'll see him get comfortable with his body a lot quicker than a guy who is putting on weight.
Reid, one thing that's interesting to me too is you look, Ohio State knew that they had to make the offensive line an emphasis, that the depth is maybe not where Ohio State wants it to be. And so if that wasn't the case, maybe Dawand Jones, maybe you don't take on a project like this to build for the future because he's a little bit of that late developing, late rising prospect. But if you've got a guy with that size, how much of that do you want to mold? How much of that is a project do you think that a coaching staff would want to take on? That's sort of the debate that they have to have when you look at a player like this.
Yeah, I mean, me personally as a coach, I'd be excited as hell to get a guy like this.
Sure.
You're basically getting a big chunk of marble, and how do you want to chisel it down? And he's got the power there, that's for sure. I mean, you see him when he does connect, and he doesn't miss too often, but just that control aspect of it. Like, look at that, finishing the plays, just throws the guy 5 yards. That would excite me as a coach. And knowing he's young and he's got the ability to be a quick learner and get out there and, you know, I don't know if he's a, 2, 3-star, turn a 3-star guy like Ohio State does into a 5-star guy. That's something that would excite the hell out of me as a coach. That's
obviously happened a few times when Ohio State has had the room to take some of those chances. Completely different position, a Darren Lee, a guy like that you don't really know exactly how they're going to develop, but you get a chance to do that. This is just, I mean, almost unfair to watch.
That's what I'm saying. It's tough because these guys are so small, but he's got great control where he's not falling too much there. You know, he's just driving the kid back. I don't know how this kid's staying up. Give the kid credit.
That guy's fighting right there.
15 yards.
Ohio State might want to check in on this guy down there. He's a fighter, if nothing else.
Yeah.
So that's Dawand Jones. Had a little fun there with this. You know, sometimes, as we've said throughout this process with Ohio State signees, don't always know the level of competition, but we're trying to get a feel for what the coaching staff, what Mark Pantoni saw when they were recruiting these guys, and Dawand Jones out of Indianapolis is now signed. He's a Buckeye, so he's going to follow in these footsteps of Reid Fragel on that Ohio State offensive line, see how he develops down the road. Reid will follow that, and we'll keep breaking that down here at Lettermen Row on BuckIQ. So for Reid, I'm Austin Ward. We'll see you next time.